Let's bring in Dr. Eric Kennedy. He's an associate professor of disaster and emergency management at New York University in Toronto. So, doctor, we heard from the officials, we've heard the heartbreak from the people on the ground. I want to talk to you from an academic perspective. What are your takeaways?
Yeah, unfortunately, this fire is a tragic reminder of the potential of wildfire to affect almost everywhere. We've seen that through the smoke this summer. We've seen that with past fires like the Marshall Fire in Colorado, affecting places that we might not stereotypically think about as prone to wildfire. Unfortunately, wildfire touches us all, and the consequences here have been devastating, as we've seen.
But
Yeah, I was going to say two things. When you think of Hawaii, you do not think of drought conditions, right? It's so lush and humid, but that's part of what they were dealing with. And just because we got somebody from Toronto, I worked up in Toronto, and one of the things that I don't recall really covering were wildfires.
And all the Canadian fires now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this brings me to a clear shift, doctor, and obviously climate change is a factor. But in what ways is climate change a factor, depending on where you are?
Yeah, it plays a huge role, and it's one of several causes that multiplies together to give us the catastrophic fires that we see today. In the case of Hawaii and other places that have both wet and dry periods, we can see that lead to a loading up in fuels, these grasses that folks have been talking about that are not native to the area, but have had a chance during the wet times to grow significantly and then be ready to burn when they're dry. But climate can have a number of impacts on fire regimes, as we would call them. It can make it drier, less humid, windier, even potentially lead to more lightning strikes. And these kinds of conditions can create catastrophic fires.
Doctor, you know about the Santa Ana winds in California, right? So I've covered so many wildfires, and what was so different for me in hearing about what's happening in Hawaii is apparently there was this hurricane off the coast of Maui, and the winds from the hurricane, right, not even impacting the island, but the winds from the hurricane were what was driving onto the island of Maui and fueling what has been this devastating fire. Is this uncommon?
Unfortunately, these kinds of extreme wind events are at the root of many fire tragedies. When you have this kind of wind involved, it drives the fire behavior quite aggressively and makes it very, very difficult to fight the blaze. There's, in many cases, almost nothing that firefighters can do during an extreme wind event with these kinds of adverse conditions to stop the fire. And so we need to think about a more comprehensive suite of solutions to managing our wildfire problems.
Like what?
So part of this is reducing the potential for ignition, right? Figuring out the ways that these fires are starting and making sure that those don't happen. We also need to get our communities ready for when fire events do occur, designing them in a way that fires can come through and do less damage, that people have more routes for safe evacuation, and that the buildings are protected with even minor modifications to make it less likely for them to burn down.
When I started working here, we would talk about fire season in California,
right,
which then increasingly was extended. And now there isn't a season.
It seems like it's all year
round.
Yeah.
And so, you talk about infrastructure and the way we rebuild. Maui will have to be rebuilt. And one of the problems with Maui is people could not get out when they realized there was a problem. And we talked earlier about the emergency system. But what about the personnel? Often when we talk about fighting fires, it's sort of a crisis situation. Personnel are drawn in from everywhere. But do you foresee, sort of always on standby, trained professionals to deal with fires, because there isn't a single fire season anymore?
Yeah, that's certainly a stressor that comes with climate change and with these conditions around the globe. It makes it harder to perhaps borrow personnel from country to country like we sometimes see when every country's fire season is expanding. And to be clear, we do need strong firefighting capacity, but we also need to pay attention to the fact that sometimes we just don't have the time or ability to intervene when these fires arrive. We need to design the communities and make the upgrades when we're building back or in our own communities right now that will make them more resilient to the embers and to the fire that's coming through.
Yeah, and you can certainly see when you see some of the aerial shots, David, that there would be buildings that have been reduced to ash, and then across from the parking lot, building not untouched completely, or if it was touched, it didn't burn down.
I got to say, it's unforgivable, though, that there was no warning. I mean, they have these outdoor warning siren systems. And, Doc, you talk about what communities can do. Hawaii did it, and it failed. It failed, according to eyewitness reports and what government leaders are starting to acknowledge. So,
Dr. Eric Kennedy, thank you so much.
many thanks.
Thanks for having me.